So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's call. We're into July, halfway through the year. Frightening that might be for some, or exciting, depending on where we're at and what we've been doing, of course. I wanted to talk today about how to deal with adversity in our business or opposition. It's often been said that to be successful in network marketing, one might need some thick skin. We have to talk to a lot of people. We have to deal with rejection on a regular basis. We need to learn how to deal with that, how to respond appropriately. And I think also confront one of the falsehoods, of course, that is often presented as a sales pitch in network marketing. Maybe not so much now, but certainly it was the case many years ago, where a lot of people believe or are led to believe that there may be some degree of get rich quick, or maybe this is a sprint to success versus a long distance run. It is, of course, a long distance run, isn't it? If we want to have a meaningful long-term business, we're not going to get there in a sprint, and we certainly don't maintain a thriving, meaningful business with the fruits of a morning sunshine, for example. Things that grow quick can often die just as fast. So I want to talk about that because I recognize that as a legacy company that Niken is, a company that has endured now in business for almost 45 years. That's incredible, isn't it? And we've got a number of people in the business on the call today that have been in this business for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, some even pushing close to 30. That's a significant lifespan of experience in any business, let alone in a network marketing company. So I want to talk today about what we can do specifically in a long distance run to deal with the ebbs and flows of building a business. I've got some mindsets that I want to share that I think are really important when we're dealing with struggles or disappointments, or maybe when we set a goal and it isn't quite working as we expected. What do we do about it? How do we respond? There are skills that we need to apply, of course, in regards to the type of work we engage in, the number of people that we talk to, what we say, how we follow up, the ABCs that we enjoy and that we connect people with, and that type of thing. We have all of those systems in place and resources available to teach us and walk us through that. However, if we don't respond emotionally and cognitively the right way when adversity happens, then that can boot us out of the business, can't it? That can slow us down or maybe bring our business to a bit of a grinding stop. So I want to share with you some tips. By all means, make some notes. If you've got a pen handy, you're on your laptops, of course, or on your phones. You might be able to do that on your phones at the same time. But it is important that we recognize first and foremost that adversity has to be recognized as an integral ingredient of any meaningful business experience. I've heard it said, and I've shared this before, in business, we are always going into or coming out of a crisis. A CEO once said to a friend of mine, and he says, and if you're smiling right now, then I know what's around the corner for you. Now, he said that tongue-in-cheek, but there is some truth in it, that there is adversity, there is opposition, there are unexpected boulders in the road in our journey to success and achievement, and it would be very naive of us to expect otherwise. I read the other day that the purpose of life is not necessarily the pursuit of happiness. Now, we all want to be happy. I believe there is a difference between joy and happiness, and we can experience joy when we're experiencing suffering. But we aren't always happy, and there are things that happen in our business that can make us unhappy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're failing or that we're struggling. What they went on to say was that the real purpose of life is perhaps found in the developing of our character in the midst of suffering. It's interesting that, isn't it? So perhaps with time, when we are in it for the long haul, when we have the duration of tenure under our belt, that we need to recognize that there will be some suffering and some struggle, but that's part of the journey. It's partly designed to build our character, but it's also part of the process of learning how to develop into the leader we aspire to be in order to come out the other side and be successful. So I think all great leaders have faced adversity and suffering and struggle and opposition, and they come out the other side stronger and better for it if they've responded well. So what are some things that they've done that have helped them to do that? Let's get into it. First of all, the first thing that I would suggest is that we accept that it's happening. Admiral Jim Stockdale was the highest ranking military official that was captured during the Vietnam War, the highest US military official captured during the Vietnam War, and was held in a prisoner of war camp. When he came out of that camp, I think it was 7 or 8 years he spent in there, he caught the world's attention, not just because he was the highest ranking military official, but also because when he came out, he seemed to be a stronger and better person. They asked him, how is this possible? How is it that you came out stronger when many of your colleagues that you were in prison with actually died? And his answer became the Stockdale paradox. He said, first, on one hand, you must accept the brutal facts of your present reality. For him, that meant that he was a prisoner of war. He may get tortured today, he may not. He didn't know when he was going to get out. He didn't have control over his circumstances or all of his circumstances. This was his position. First, you must accept the brutal facts of your present reality. He said, but on the other hand, you must also never lose sight in the end of your story. He said, and for me, the end of my story, and I love this, was not only would I get out and prevail, but I would turn this experience into the defining experience of my life that in retrospect, I would not trade. Can you imagine being captured and put in a prisoner of war camp, tortured repeatedly, see your loved ones around you die for different reasons, not know if you're going to get out, but turn that into a defining moment of your life, and when you get out, say to your family and loved ones, I wouldn't trade that for anything. That's a sobering perspective, isn't it? As you look at the adversity that you may be facing in your business now, as you're striving, and I hope that you are. That sounds like a strange thing to say as a team leader. I hope you're experiencing struggle and adversity in your business, because if you are, it means that you're fighting against something. C.S. Lewis said that you don't learn the strength of a wind by lying down. You don't learn the strength of an army by giving in. Yeah, so if you're feeling the wind blow against you, it's because you're standing up against it. Yeah, it's because you're fighting against the wind. And the wind is always blowing. If you're not feeling it, maybe you're lying down a little. Yeah, maybe you're lying down a bit. But can you imagine coming out of that experience like Admiral Stockdale and saying, I wouldn't trade that for anything? As you look at the struggles that you're experiencing now, can you say that too? I wouldn't trade that for anything. We don't get there in a moment, and I'm sure he didn't get there in a moment, yeah? I'm sure it took him a number of months, years, and some significant brutal experience for him to realize that, submit and surrender to it, and become at peace with his situation in order to truly confront it and deal well with it. But the first thing that you have to do is what Admiral Jim Stockdale did, which is to accept the brutal facts of our present reality. And of course, recognize, step number 2, that we do have the power to do something about it. So if you are experiencing some struggles, 1, yes, you accept the brutal reality that you are struggling with something, but that doesn't mean that you're defeated by it. So step number 2 is to accept that we actually have the power within us to do something about it and to change it. Even if you look around you and you go, other people are struggling too, that's okay. That doesn't mean that we're all hopeless. It means that we're all in the same fight together. We're all battling for the same cause. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that honorable? Isn't that great and noble? Isn't that what this is all about? That we fight and labor together? We all strive uphill to get to the top of the mountain together. So if you see other people struggling on your journey as you struggle, don't let that weigh you down. Let that lift you up. Be inspired by it and recognize that together we can do something about it. So the third one's kind of a fun one. It's pound your chest. What do I mean by that? Well, gorillas, when they're about to fight, do that, don't they? These big, silverback gorillas pound their chests. What they do is they kind of assert a sense of physical control of the situation. And I think that's important. Tony Robbins has often talked about this, isn't he? Where he says that our body is bigger than our mind, our brain. This is where our brain is, but our body is all of this. So if I learn to stand up straight, and I talked about that, didn't I, the other day, about square your shoulders. But if I learn to stand up a little taller, put my head back and square my shoulders and stand up, figuratively pound my chest, breathe more deeply, I find when I get stressed or anxious, I'm not sure about you if you've ever paid this much attention to it, but when I get anxious or stressed or worried, my breathing gets shallow. My shoulders start to hunch, but my breathing is shallow. And all that does is it intensifies the anxiety. So do the opposite. Take some big breaths, breathe deeply, and pound your chest a little bit. Square your shoulders. And it's remarkable what can happen as a result of that, because that can immediately have a positive impact on our mind and on our attitude. So we accept the brutal facts of our reality. We recognize we have power to do something. We look around us, we see others in the same battle, climbing up the same mountain. We feel encouraged that we're not alone and that we can do this together with someone else. We pound our chest, we square our shoulders, we take deeper breaths, feel more confidence, take control here in our heart. And then the fourth thing that we want to do is develop a good work ethic. This isn't all about a positive attitude. It can't be. If we want to take control of the challenges that we face, it's not simply about having a good mindset. Having a good mindset is never enough. It's fundamental, it's critical, but that by itself is not enough. It has been said that dreaming without work, work without vision is drudgery. Vision without work is dreaming. But work coupled with vision is destiny. We need to have vision, but we also need to be willing to work. Otherwise, we're dreamers. Otherwise, it's drudgery. We want to do both. So let's make sure that we have the right mindset, yes, but also that we commit ourselves to a meaningful level of excellent work. Have a standard of excellence, set goals of what you will do. We can't always control the outcomes, but we can always control our action and the bit in between. A good friend of mine used to tell me all the time, there is a space in between action and reaction, and that's our attitude. We can't always control the outcome when we're talking to others, when we're building teams, of what they will say, think, feel, or do. We can influence it, but we can't control it. We can influence it. We can control what we do, and we can control our attitude. That's it. So set our goals around that, and then work hard, and then measure the outcomes, and then influence them by improving our performance and improving our attitude. When we do those two things and observe the outcome and feed back into that, back into our attitude and our work ethic, we can improve and increase the outcomes as a consequence. The next thing we want to do, point number 5, if we want to have a meaningful impact on the struggles that we face in our business, is look to tomorrow and to the future. Look to tomorrow and beyond. So many of us, when we struggle, focus on the immediate sense of suffering and then look behind us. And we tell ourselves, this is how I felt all week. Maybe this is how I felt all month, or blinking heck, this is how I felt all year, right? And it sucks. I don't like it. And so I go, I've always been feeling like this. And sometimes our thought processes get skewed there. If I'm looking to the past or dwelling on it, that's the thing. If I'm dwelling on the past, then it can sometimes be disproportionately long in our mind's eye. And then we tell ourselves, it's always going to be like that. I've always struggled with this attitude. I've always struggled with this mindset. My business has always been difficult. Therefore, it will always be difficult. If then does not always apply. If it has always been, doesn't mean it thus must therefore always be. We have the power to change that. So it's important that we take stock of the past, but if we want to change our future, we have to look to the future. We have to look to tomorrow. So I think that's really, really important. If I'm struggling with something now, I can evaluate what I'm struggling with, but then look to the future and be forward-facing. This is an interesting one, and it's a difficult one, this. But I think there is great power in it in developing us as a character. Point number 6 is to learn to be grateful for adversity. That's a hard one. Benjamin Disraeli said that there is no education like adversity. It's really true, isn't it? Some of the greatest lessons that all of us have learned, I would guarantee, if I asked for a show of hands right now, the greatest lessons learned in life, have they come from adversity? It'd be interesting how many people would raise their hands. Yeah, I can see hands already going up. Yeah, the greatest lessons come from the greatest struggle. But I find that fantastic. If you look at it that way, it's often in our darkest moment where we feel the least amount of hope. Yeah, but in reality, if those darkest moments bring about the greatest lessons and the greatest opportunity for change, then what we need to appreciate, which we won't necessarily in the moment, is that in those darkest moments of despair and discouragement actually lie the seeds for the greatest transformation, because that's where the greatest lessons are planted. So if you are struggling right now, if you are feeling a little bit discouraged right now, recognize that in this very moment could be the seeds of some of your greatest lessons, some of the greatest opportunities as a result. So I would encourage us to look at the challenges that we're going through and do our best to be grateful for it. It's what shapes us the most. It's what brings about the greatest change in our character, in our nature, in the wisdom and insights that we have and the reflection that we can have on life and on the world. That's what you want to have, but it comes from those moments of struggle. Point number 7, I would say to look outside of ourselves. It's very, very easy when we're struggling in our business to focus primarily on the struggle and often how the struggle makes us feel. If we can look outside of that and remember why we joined the business in the first place, what got us started, it's to make a difference. Yes, we want to have a difference in our own lives, but we know from experience that if I help someone else today, it makes me feel good. I don't think there's anyone in the world that can do something good for someone else and not feel good as a result. Yeah. So if you're feeling down, go out and do some good for someone. Think outside of yourself, step outside of yourself and do some good. And that might be by working with a teammate. One of the quickest ways, I think, to do good in our business is to reach out to someone in your team today and give them some encouragement. Recognize them, celebrate them for some things that they've done recently that has been good. Even if it's something small, let them know that it's been recognized. Let them know that it's appreciated. It can be downline, upline, crossline, whichever way. Maybe it's even the company. You know, often the tendency is if there's something wrong, we'll call the company and let them know. You need to fix this, you need to fix this. We don't often think to reach out and let them know if they've done something good. Just wanted to say thank you. I love this product. I had a great product experience this morning. Just want you to know that it's been a blessing in my life. Thank you. It's good to get out there and say thanks to others or to recognize them, to stay and to celebrate their success. So let's look at opportunities to do that as well. The other one that I would say is get some help. My next step, get some help. If you are struggling, please know that you don't need to suffer alone. It's really, really important, like I said right at the beginning, to understand that yes, struggle is a part of the business and it's a part of life. And yes, we can look around and see others climbing the mountain together, but we can often be, can't we, in a crowded room and yet still feel lonely. I don't want anyone to be in NECAN, in a place where there are thousands of people involved, where there are plenty of people building the business, and yet come into this wonderful environment and feel lonely. That shouldn't be the case. If that's the case, reach out. And I'll give you some advice that I gave my son last night. I've got a 16-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter who are excited. Well, we're excited to be in California, but those two are missing their friends. And if they had it their way, I think they'd probably like to stay in England. And so one of them, I think, for the need for validation and reassurance, is waiting for others that they know to reach out to them, to say hello, and to invite them out to hang out. And unfortunately for one of them, it's just not quite happening all that much at all. She's kind of been waiting for her friends to reach out. They haven't been. But they might be waiting for her to reach out. There might be a host of different reasons. But she's wanting that assurance that I'm needed, I'm wanted, I'm loved, I'm appreciated, and she's hanging back. And I've said, don't hang back. You've got to do the reaching out. When I first moved to England from New Zealand, I moved into an area where I knew no one, literally no one. And I went out to activities to get involved. It was fortunate for me that I was a member of a church and I could go to a church group. But even then, I walked into the room and no one knew me and I knew no one. I couldn't rely on the fact that they would come up to me and say, hi, you're a new face. Who are you and how are you doing? I went out to them and said, hello, my name's Ben. I've just moved in from New Zealand and here I am. And I introduced myself. I took the proactive step to reach out, to shake the hand, to introduce myself, and to get acquainted. If you're feeling alone, we may want certain people to reach out. We may be praying for them to do that. But for whatever reason, it may not be happening. Please don't condemn them for that. And please don't sit back waiting for someone else to do it. Reach out. Extend your hand. That's a great thing to do. And I'm confident within Niken, you'll always get a warm and welcoming hand back. So please don't ever feel alone or isolated in this wonderful community of Niken people where we can all work together. Reach out, get connected, and if people aren't connecting with you, be proactive and take the first step. That's okay. Be bold, be brave, and it'll be worth it. The last thing that I wanted to suggest was to say the right things. Now, what do I mean by say the right things? The right things to my prospects, the right things to my customers, actually the right things to myself. Things like, this too shall pass. If I'm struggling, recognize and tell yourself it's not going to be forever. It's important to have the right language and the right conversations with ourselves in order to move forward. So yes, this isn't going to be forever. I'm stronger or bigger than my struggle. That's a big one. Sometimes our struggles can feel bigger than us, can't they? But we've got to tell ourselves, I'm bigger than it. I'm bigger than it. I'm capable of finding a way out of this. I know how to ask for help. I think it's really important that we can give ourselves that positive mindset by saying to ourselves, I'm bigger than my struggles. I can get through this. This is going to pass. It's not forever. I've got plenty of people that can help me. I'm not alone in this. I've got a network of friends that can support. Give the right language to yourself to get yourself through it. I know, I shared this today because I know that business building is not easy. It's exciting, and it's particularly exciting when we have a rank advancement, when we hit a milestone, where we achieve great things in our business, where we get a great check in a particular month, or maybe a flurry of great checks. But the reality is, in business and in life, it's made up of moments. It's not a perpetual, exciting experience. Life isn't like that. I can't crack a joke today and expect you to laugh until Christmas. It's a moment, isn't it? We have a funny moment. We have an exhilarating moment. We have a rewarding moment. We have a struggle that's a moment. But, like I said, those moments pass. And then we're left predominantly with the drudgery and monotony of everyday life, where we have to get up and take a shower, brush our teeth, do the housework, wash the clothes, do the shopping, and all that other stuff. And as I referenced on a call the other day, deal with the whirlwind of the day job. Yeah. And when we deal with all of that, we also have the opportunities for great moments and for struggling moments, for difficult moments, and everything in between. But it's typically just moments. I mentioned that to my son last night as he's preparing to go to Russia. He's excited about the great adventure. I said, but the reality is a lot of it's going to be hard slog, long hours, difficult work, outside of your comfort zone, but you'll have moments that will be inspiring and incredible, moments that will change your life, moments that will change other people's lives. But they're moments. And that's what we've got to cherish. When that moment comes, we latch onto it, we love it, we make the most of it. So ladies and gentlemen, please understand that life and business, we know, can be struggles. But if we approach it well, if we embrace the fact that that's going to happen, if we recognize that we have power to influence it, if we recognize that we can be grateful, that we can stand up for it, that we can have the right mindset, that we can have the right work ethic, that we can get help, that we can say the right things to ourselves, then we can confront this, overcome it, and become stronger, better, bigger, bolder, and become the person that we were destined to become. And that humans being more mantra, that message of humans being more becomes a reality when we learn to do these things consistently. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope you've got a great day planned. And if not, if it's a struggle, if you've had a few no's, if you've had a little bit of rejection this last week or this last month, I want you to know that that's okay. We can keep moving forward and we can lean against the wind and not lie down against it. If the wind is blowing, that's good. It means you're standing up for something. So love you. Make the most of it. Be strong, be good. And if you need help, reach out. And if you're wondering who to reach out to, my hand is up. You can reach out to me anytime. Okay? We love you lots. Take care. And please have a wonderful, prosperous day and week. Take care.
Thank you, Ben.